I have to. Sorry. It's Mother. Mother.
James Charles has made his fair share of mistakes and has been in scandals. We all have, but I always believed in him, as he had a rare ability to improve himself through any situation. In the past, if I was upset, it never lasted long. He is gifted with turning pain.
Okay, so hello, you've noticed that I'm using the same title, The Absolute State of blah blah blah, and I wasn't going to be doing that so soon. However, I have something very important to say. Originally, you might think that this video is going to go over specific drama, like this is the Jeffree Star drama, this is what's going to happen, this is what this guy said to this guy, and I was intending it to be that way, but then I started rambling. I bring up postmodernism and why I hate it, I bring up materialism, I bring up the idea of rejecting internal factors to improve yourself and just blaming it on the external. I bring up way too many things that start getting into some categories that feel like a therapy session. There isn't really any talk about current drama, so if that's what you were looking for, I'm sorry, but there's some weird shit going on. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point, but I really had to say some of the stuff that I said, so I hope that you'll bear with me. Okay, when it comes to the beauty community, I already have very little experience because I don't actually wear it besides some slight foundation when I feel like shit, very rarely. I warn you, I don't know the difference between eyelash glue and a fucking ceiling fan. I'm gonna put on a blue cap because please be patient with me.
I'm going to die.
The beauty community has always been curious to me, especially as an outsider, because it's really the only community as far as I know that routinely had the power to make everyone notice their drama, no matter how asinine. And my immediate question for this video was, why?
Are you gay?
Before we begin, these days you can't criticize anyone without someone saying that you're doing it just because of their identity, so I do want to say I'm not against anyone, no matter what your gender, wearing makeup. As long as you're not hurting yourself or other people, live how you want to. The government shouldn't control that. Anyway, on the surface, the beauty community is really just about makeup, but that brings up the obvious question of why are there so many big drama channels then?
I'm going to kill myself!
What did they do? And the short answer is, it's not about the makeup. The long answer is gonna take some time. The very first thing that I was surprised about when I started to research was the sheer amount of affiliate link malpractice and the lack of disclosure of ads. So if you don't know about that sort of thing, it's, you know, when you go into someone's description, you might see that they've gotten a link that goes to Amazon and the link has their name in it, or there's a code with their name in it that you can use to get a discount, that kind of thing. You have to disclose what's going on with those, and with ads, obviously you have to disclose if you're sponsored. That's just the way that it works, because it's all about being transparent, and a lot of the time in these beauty communities, you don't really see that, or you see the most weaselly type, where they'll try their hardest to make it look like they're like, I'm technically saying that I'm advertising, but it just doesn't sound like I am, so I'm still qualified, right? Even though that's not how it works. So with that, the most immediate fault is how deep the corporate fingers are in the pie in this instance. So specifically, there are a couple things. Firstly, we have this idea that you can shorten affiliate links. Like, there was this one thing a while back where if you have a long link, it'll usually have like blah blah blah, your name, and then something else in the link. So if you want to hide that it's an affiliate link, you can not really easily do that. You have to kind of say it. But what they were doing was having these really short links, and these short links ran through this company that would work as someone who was kind of adjacent to the affiliate marketing thing. They would help you, and these people would be making money off of it, but you couldn't see that in the link. And that to me is a huge problem with transparency. I'm not sure if it was fixed because I don't really see a whole lot of this, but it's definitely something that would confuse someone, especially considering the fact that a lot of people in the makeup community as a viewer are teenage girls. I don't know about you, but when I think of a teenage girl, I don't think of somebody that exactly looks at these kind of things. But the thing is with sponsors, I really don't care as long as you're not lying about it. And really, what they were doing when lying about it is nothing really different, especially as I'm not familiar with the makeup community, but I am very familiar with the gaming community. And I've seen a lot of stuff like that where they just don't really want to disclose that they're sponsored. Or there was a huge issue recently where, if you might have seen some ordinary gamers talking about how people get review copies, and the assumption from these companies of getting the early review copy is that you're going to be positive about it. And as soon as you say something negative, even if it's criticism, they won't send you another one. And I think that that's the same issue here, which is why I get to my next gripe, which is the idea of all of this overwhelming positivity. We're gonna use this woman named Nicole Concilio, I think that's how you pronounce it. She is a prime example of this. She caused a little ripple, I guess, in the beauty community, as I found maybe about 2 years ago, judging by the dates of the videos that I was watching about her. All that she did was positive. Every single thing, even if the makeup by and large was hated in the community, she would find a positive about them.
Good so far. But so far, the highlighters are blending nicely. Okay, not too bad. You definitely have to kind of work it into the skin, but highlighter's really pretty. So you do get a lot of stuff for your money's worth. This, to me, is a pretty good deal. Ooh, yes, Kylie. Yes, bitch! I am so impressed with this pigment girl. Oh my god, she didn't come to play. I am loving that the eyeshadow names are on the front of the palettes. There isn't a lot of fallout at all, which is pretty bomb in my opinion. I'm like really feeling these pink vibes up in here. So far, y'all, I am super impressed with this pigment. I have to say that this is probably one of Kylie's best palettes I've tried. I'm really impressed with all the mattes so far that I've been using. They've been I think it's bomb. I totally love it. I think it's super fun. I am super impressed, especially with the I Want It All palette.
At first glance, you might think, well, she's just trying to be nice, isn't she? But here's the thing. When it comes to something that you apply on your face, things can get very dangerous. But what she was doing was kind of almost denying some of the issues. And that's a very dangerous thing to do in a community where you're basically applying chemicals to your face. Because let's say you apply makeup and it makes your lips burn because there's something wrong with the formula. Somebody who's going to be positive because they equate criticism with negativity, which is a huge thing in the makeup community, I'll get to that in a bit. You will start to see people who like that influencer not knowing that if they get this makeup, it might burn their lips. And then you have a bunch of people complaining about it. Because that kind of thing can be seriously harmful. And with something like Nicole Concilio, I didn't find something where it was harmful. I just found stuff where she was saying that the formula was smooth and easy to apply when everyone else was saying that it was shit. And that's just annoying in general. Because what you have then is somebody who's buying it, expecting it to be a certain way, and then it obviously isn't. And then they find all of these other reviews saying that, you know, the obvious things. But you can see why it's a dangerous thing. But the question is, why is she doing this? Why are a lot of people who are in this type of weird positive review purgatory, let's say, doing this kind of thing? Well, the answer lies within how the sponsors and affiliates treat the beauty gurus. If you look at stuff like this, they're saying that they get to go to these parties where they can get cameras, they get these huge gift bags full of stuff. And even if you don't like their products, there comes this weird sort of greed or almost bribery where they're saying, hey, if you say something positive about us, if you always use us, we'll fly you out to some place with some crazy blue ass water. They'll give you all of this stuff. And these influencers love to flex. So they'll just have this everywhere and they won't really realize how it makes them look. So then you have people like Nicole who, even if they're not being sponsored by, let's say, Kylie Cosmetics, they will make a positive video about Kylie Cosmetics because they know that this brand will then come up to them and say, hey, you're giving us positive reviews. If you'll continue to do that, we'll pay you. And then maybe that'll give them a chance to go towards one of these sponsor parties or whatever they're called. It's all about this weird type of bribery. And again, speaking as someone who likes a lot of stuff in the video games community, I've seen that in certain places, and I do have my trusted sort of channels that I know that they're not going to fuck me over. Even then, if you like watching people completely tear apart the Disney Star Wars movies as much as I do, you've come across a couple people like Geeks and Gamers who are talking about how when they started talking shit about the Disney stuff, Disney immediately took them off all of the lists of like, come and see the movie, here's a gift bag, thank you for the coming to the premiere screening, I hope you'll be nice to us about the movie and stuff like that. You immediately get alienated from them because they always want shills. But the thing with makeup is, again, we're dealing with a lot more of a material substance here. In the beauty community, there's this huge emphasis on materialism, and they give so much more. It's like, you're coming here for lipstick, but we're gonna give you like 70 different types of nail polish, a camera, because it's ridiculous. Returning to our question of why does the beauty community always seem like such a huge drama field that always leaks into everyone else's day, is because everything in this community is exaggerated. Now, I could go into some stuff about why. I think that it kind of links back to the way that they speak about everything is shook, everything is exaggerated, but I think that that's probably something that's not the most interesting. However, whatever it may be, the attitude, whatever, it leaks into the other things that they're doing. All of the drama is exaggerated, even if it's the smallest thing in the world. All of the stuff about sponsorships has to keep getting bigger. There was a video, I think towards either the start of this year or last year that I found this woman was saying that she is no longer accepting these PR packages, which is something that the companies would send you so that you can review their product, because they were so full of wasteful plastic, just really big boxes and boxes and boxes. They were a spectacle instead of the product. They were just huge things that would get you talking about the packaging rather than the product. For some beauty guru reviewer people, I do think that that's part of their status. They flex these huge packages and they can say, look at how sparkly this is, they sent this to me. Last video I touched on parasocial relationships, and I definitely see a very warped and exaggerated version of it here, because there's this sort of awe that these young kids have when they look up to these beauty gurus, and then the beauty gurus look down on them. Like there's this weird sort of familial dynamic, like sisters and all this other stuff that makes it seem just strange. This weird feeling that I had when I was looking at this shit, it's like I went into like a weird simulation version of this world, but everything was exaggerated up to 100. Everything is super colorful. Every product has like 10 different variants and you all have to put them all on your face. The language that they use is just, it's like a weird other language on its own. The dialect is just fucking strange. The sponsorships are through the roof. Everything is just unnecessary excess. So to go back to Nicole Concilio, because I'm terrible at tangents, this might seem like it's something that works in the short run because she probably got a lot of money from it, but looking at her channel now, it seems like the amount of corruption sort of slowly became more and more of a noticeable thing to our subscribers. In the end, when you seem like you're not actually being honest, a lot of people won't really watch your reviews, and then the sponsors don't want to get in anymore. That's another thing that I noticed with a lot of these beauty community things. It's an emphasis on the trend, and I think because they move so fast from trend to trend, believe me, it's like object permanence doesn't even exist. It's like, I remember there was this thing called milk makeup that I saw some videos on, a blur stick or something, and when I tried looking for it in other places, it was just over. The fad was just over immediately, and it was onto something else, and I was wondering, well, what if you bought this blur stick, whatever it is, and then you took it home, and then you started using it, and you use like a tiny bit of it, but the product is still mostly unused, and then you look next month, and it's completely over. No one uses it anymore. Does it just sit in your closet? So then I was thinking, if the trend really moves so fast, then where does that product go? Does it just sit and do you just waste money on it? If so, why would you keep buying new stuff? But it was so fast. It was like trying to swim in a riptide. It was weird. But then I remembered something. So weirdly enough, I know every now and again I always end up talking about Amberlynn Reid. Let me have this. So I remember watching a reaction from On Program Situation, and she was talking about how when she was stuck in the makeup beauty guru mindset, she had a huge problem with money because she used to buy every single product that they used to sell. It was a constant thing, like you need 20 different products for your face, you need 20 different products for your eyes and lips. It was a never-ending thing, and the products that you needed always updated because there was always new sponsors, so she ended up spending so much money. And when you look at someone like Amberlynn Reid, she constantly has new makeup. When I did my documentary and my catch-up on her, she had new subscription things, she had every single time that she went out shopping, she would get some new makeup. It was a constant thing, and I think that this sort of rampant materialism is one of the reasons why everyone is on such high alert in the beauty community, because it starts to stress you over a while. But when you're choosing to be interested in something like makeup to a degree where you can completely transform your face, I think a lot of it just doesn't rub off on you physically because you cover it up. And with that comes my next point. This community is very, very focused on the idea that you have to live every day as if you're not gonna grow old. Everyone is super young, they have these really fake figures, everything is just huge. And when something is super dazzly, sometimes it damages your eyesight. This is something that I see heavily connected to the idea of hustle culture, and as someone who burns out very quickly and has very poor management skills when it comes to doing too much when I shouldn't be, I really hate that kind of thing. It's this idea that you have to live every day as if it was your last, and let me tell you, one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, because you're not preparing for the fact that it's not going to be your last. And a lot of these people are just obsessed with how young they look, and I understand it's a good idea to take care of your skin, but there's a certain balance that you need to have where you need to acknowledge that you need to age, because that's part of being healthy. But a lot of these people will just get obsessed with it. There's a rampant problem, especially on Instagram, of these people going to doctors who do not have good reputations, who will give them injections and Botox and all of these other things to look young forever. And it brings me back to the idea of this trend where we have to go here and here and here, and where every single time you're on trend and every single time you buy these products, I think that they're just buying endorphins at that point. Because what I found was in every single community, these people would break down at some point and lash out at someone else, and then that would create drama, and all the T channels start going mad, and then these people say, no, we made up, we're fine. And I had to ask myself, why on earth are they constantly lashing out at each other? And then I thought about the whole how many products they buy, and I was like, that's not sustainable. That's gonna stress you out, especially if, let's face it, YouTubers are a temporary thing. The idea of being an internet personality is kind of a risky thing because you either have to do it in a way where you can constantly adapt to it like AVGN, or you just burn out, where you did it while you could, you made money, and now you can just coast off of it for the rest of your life because you were smart about it, or you live this way. You kind of commit to the idea where everything is just now. And I think that deep down they know that it's not going to last, and when it ends, they're not going to have anything. There's this other woman that I found regarding the blur stick that I was playing before, and I was watching some of her videos, and she was one of the people who did not do the affiliate links correctly. She was misleading and she was not being transparent. However, when I was looking at her content, she made a video basically crying about how she was trying for so long to get validation from the internet, and she was trying to get validation from the makeup beauty thing, and she was just to the point where she was not being transparent, I think. And she realized that it wasn't working and it was fading and she couldn't do it anymore. So she made this video in her car where she was just really frustrated at the fact that it wasn't working, despite the fact that she had put years of effort into it. And I think in this video, it was just kind of depressing to see, but I do think in this video that she was realizing that time moves. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think with a lot of these sort of high-paced, drama-filled, materialistic types of communities, especially the beauty community, because I honestly haven't seen anything that rivals it, these people kind of crash and burn when they realize that. But it's like an addiction, because sure enough, she's back at it, and it's still the same. It's not that successful, but she's still doing it anyway. And I don't really know why, and it's kind of terrifying. But let's continue because my tangents are getting ridiculous. So there's also another thing that I felt really exacerbated the stress in this community, and this is something that I've been railing against in other communities as well. The idea that criticism and anything else that isn't overtly super fucking positive is automatically negative and therefore bad. You've seen this with the idea of, well, my haters are just hating me, but I'm doing fine, blah blah blah. They lump in criticism with haters. That happens to everyone. It comes hand in hand with this idea that in the beauty community, everyone is super positive to each other because they're being expressive, and really, it starts to get to a bit much, where the positivity kind of becomes toxic in a way. What I've noticed first and foremost is all of these people get this weird sort of infantilization sort of treatment. And you see this all the time when Trisha Paytas or Shane Dawson recently do something that's bad, and they keep doing something that's bad, and this is like the 20th time that you've seen them in your drama feed. Yet people always go, well, they didn't mean it, or something that makes it feel like they're treating these people like toddlers. And now they're obviously not toddlers. I mean, Shane looks like he's in his 30s or something, and Trisha is, I don't even know what Trisha is. But the problem is that with positivity, and you see this in academia. Weirdly enough, I was rewatching some of Jordan Peterson and James Lindsay and Brett Weinstein appearances on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were saying the same sort of thing, this idea of positivity because everything else is negative. Self-improvement is negative, the feedback is negative because it makes you feel bad. So you can brandish it off as negativity or haters or whatever else, and then it starts to become like a toddler. It's a daycare, and these people who are doing these fucked up things, they never get told not to, because it's like everyone is a child. So then you have these teenage girl fans who are way younger than Shane Dawson, but they're acting like he's the one who's younger than them. He's a toddler to them when they're just the young teenage fans following this random adult who just can't seem to get his shit together. There's this weird phrase that I came across, my truth. Not the truth, my truth. Now, obviously I could go rambling about how postmodernism is garbage and that it's infecting all of these communities that I love, like movie reviews and game reviews, that there's no objective criticism and that everything is subjective and everything is your own opinion and there's no way to back it up. But you get the idea. And I see it in the beauty community as harmful because whenever somebody comes out with their own story for drama, they say, my truth. I'm telling my truth. When they have receipts and they have all of these sorts of things that prove that they're true, supposedly, but they still use the phrase my truth, and it's like, Is it your truth at that point, or is it just the truth? Because you're trying to prove it. What does my truth even mean? So then you have somebody else who comes out and says, you're wrong, the story that you told is wrong, and this is my truth. And with the idea of my truth or subjectivity without objectivity, it comes with this weird idea that everything that you say is above criticism because no one can criticize you if you're not making an objective statement. And when it comes to movies, that's annoying, sure, but it's still like a fictional thing, it's an art form. But when it comes to drama in the beauty community, these are real people's lives. And when you start doing that about somebody else's life, if you're making an accusation against someone and you're saying, well, this is my truth, this is your truth about someone else, well, wouldn't they want to defend themselves? Because the movie can't start talking to you and defend itself, but the person can. So it's just very strange to me when these weird sort of ideas of subjective truth and the idea of trying to be as objective as possible just going out the window, especially because these people review makeup. Like, you're reviewing something, shouldn't you be objective? It all starts to crumble. And I think this is something that you see a lot in the James Charles situation, where everyone was like, well, this is my truth, I decided that he was a fucking pedophile, or I decided that he was a fucking rapist, or whatever the fuck they were talking about. This is another human being's life. He's not a movie. You can't just say that you thought this and then leave it at that, especially when you have so much fucking influence and you're supposed to be an adult. You look like an adult. You certainly look like you're supposed to be an adult, but you're not acting like one, because you keep weaseling your way out of objectivity because you think that you can just do that to someone else. And I think that that's one of the biggest reasons why the drama thing is so rampant, because when everyone is subjective, it just goes out of the fucking window. My truth is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard in my life, and I hate that phrase. It opens the door to so much bullshit. And honestly, I really do believe that if you get into the makeup industry and you're actually starting to produce makeup, then you've actually made it and you're making money. But a lot of these beauty gurus, I actually feel like they are almost at the mercy of these drama channels. I think that the drama channels are actually more successful than the beauty gurus. I really do think that the tea channels have more staying power and just more power in general, and they make more money. Because think about it this way. If we go back to the idea of everyone is just constantly moving on this trend, it's something that doesn't work in the long run. They burn out very fast, and the trends move very fast. So when these channels inevitably lose popularity and just die, the next person that replaces the beauty guru will just be lined up immediately, and the tea channel will just move on to the next one. In a way, I do think that the tea channels are the most nihilistic, black-pilled, really, type of channels out there, because what they're doing is just waiting and waiting for these people to just continue stomping over each other, knowing that there's going to be an endless source of entertainment. So when I say that the beauty community is not actually about beauty, or not actually about makeup, I do think that the vast majority of these people have created this sort of tabloid magazine-esque culture where they're really just following these channels not to look at the makeup, but to look at what they're going to say or see if they're going to quote-unquote shade someone else. And then there lies the next problem, which I think comes from the positivity idea, where if you have a very low tolerance for stuff that you think is negative, you'll start having a very low tolerance for any sort of language. And if there's one thing that I hate, it's when people start banning language because they're offended by it. And I think that that's an endless source of drama, because your threshold for drama becomes incredibly fucked up. Somebody saying that somebody else has a bad hair day all of a sudden turns into a 10-minute video from one of those tea channels, and then it starts to affect your friendships, probably incredibly so, to the point where I'm not even sure if these people really have friendships. I don't see how you can do that in a community like this, especially when they know that their day to shine might be ending any minute now because of how fast and fickle this community is. With all of this combined and all of this exaggerated, while yes, I do think that every community has a terrible, terrible practice in it somewhere, I think that the beauty community has amplified it because it just lives to amplify everything. It's this weird sort of philosophical bullshit nightmare. Especially with that, with all of this coddling comes this idea that yes, everyone who criticizes me is a hater. I don't think about it in internal factors, I think about it with external factors. Everything is an external factor, and I have to cover everything else up. Drama, calling somebody a sexual abuser, or like a fucking weirdo, or whatever it is, starts to become a PR move, because the idea of truth and the standards just are subjective, they're not there anymore. That's why I started off trying to talk about this in perspective of, well, this drama's happening, this drama's happening, this drama's happening, everything is in flames. But in the end, I just didn't talk about that at all. I mentioned James Charles like once, because I think that I really, while I was rambling, discovered this idea that this is a problem that lies within the roots of how it operates. So I could talk about any drama and immediately date this video, because it's just that specific drama, but I know that the drama will never end. Immediately after the James Charles thing, there's going to be something else. There's going to be something else that's even bigger, because this community is just burning itself at this point, and I think it always has been. So instead of that, I just chose to attack it right at its core. A lot of what I said is probably just crazy talk, but hell, I'm in that mood. Since the whole world is burning, my brain might as well be burning as well at this point. And the very last thing that I found was, well, to really, I guess, cement my ideas here, are these channels. I think her name is Michelle Fan or something like that, has consistently been doing this for about 10 years or more at this point. And she started off doing some makeup, but she started doing vlogs after that, and the staying power that she has is incredibly similar to AVGN, which is someone that I'm infinitely familiar with, being a huge fan of him. What I think it boils down to is Michelle doesn't strike me as someone who jumps on the trend. And this is something that I can relate to because, as you know if you're a subscriber of mine, that I purposefully wait till the drama is finished before I talk so that I can get the full picture, and so that I'm not beholden to an expectation that I need to come out with something as soon as it happens. It's very much like, if I feel like talking about it, then I am. And ultimately, while I do think, like, if you look at her channel, she's clearly not as successful if we're dealing with raw numbers as the rest of these people, but she, in my view, is way more successful because she will be able to coast off of this for the rest of her life. AVGN might not have as much in terms of subscribers as a Let's Play channel who does all the latest games, or someone who is corruptly getting review copies. He has a core audience that are just there for him being himself, and I think that that's something that lasts way longer. I think self-esteem wise as well, all of these people are burning out because they need to look the best, they need to do all of these things. Some of these people, they're just being themselves, and I think that that's something that speaks to the human condition. One of the reasons why I think the beauty community is so fucked up is because all of these people are just trying to do something that isn't really in the human nature. They're trying to make themselves into someone else. They're trying to become a deep fake of themselves, and in the end, that's not sustainable to a human, because we're not designed to be that way. That's why they always crumble and lash out, because they're just not happy. But when I look at some of these older creators that are still going, like Michelle, she seems to just not give a shit about any of that. She's not as plugged in as the rest of them, and I think any takeaway that you could have from this mess of a video could be something like that. Maybe if you're constantly being talked about by the drama channels, part of that might be that you're giving something to them to talk about. And I think as soon as you stop doing that, you'll stop being talked about. But also the idea that maybe you think that you're dependent on them. When they talk about you, you get views from it. And that's a whole cycle that will not end in something that's good for you. With all of that being said, here is my final thought. When you finally clean off the layers of makeup after ignoring it for so long, you're going to start finding your skin newly exposed to the clear, real air. And it's going to feel very cold.